Hey, Rory, thank you so much
Hey,
for stopping by.
yeah, you bet. Morning or good afternoon, depending upon where you're at. How you doing? Good to see you, Ryan.
It's good to see you, Rory. I have to admit I'm a bit envious with you being in San Diego.
Oh, yeah.
This winter has been cold and nasty and snowy, like a brutal Northeast winter.
Ooh, I've seen that. Well,
Like I could use a little San Diego in my life, but I'll get out to see you in October.
if it makes you feel better, we have had some bad weather the past few days, right? That's been harsh for us because it's been like 50 degrees, which is tough for us because like 4 days ago or 5 days ago, I'm kidding you not, it was like 85 degrees out, right? I would walk outside and it's just like you need sunscreen. It was crazy. And then it dropped to this. But I can't remember if I told you or not, but I'm from Helena, Montana, right?
Yes.
And
Yep.
so at like age 23, I got out of that. And I have not gone back. Well, I guess I did go back once, but still it is those winters are brutal. I remember I was like, if I can just get through February, right? If we can get through February, even though it just drags on till April, you get some days that like look like spring, smell like spring. There's life back in the air. So just make it to February, and we're almost there. We're almost there. So
Yes, yes, yes. That is that you are a person of the North, and that is a common refrain. Let's just get through February. But the good news is like you get
through.
a lot more light in February, and
Yeah,
yeah, you we can get some decent days in March. No, but Rory, I just I'm thankful so much thankful that you wanted to come on and you wanted to do
yeah,
this because you were one of our very first clients at Best
yeah,
Era. So
yeah.
how did you hear about us? How did we connect?
So how we came to it is this: is that I ended up to I'm gonna take a longer route to get to here. We're gonna get right to it because it kind of comes from, born and raised in Montana. My dad was a power lineman, right? He built power lines. My grandfather started this company in the 50s, and then when he died in the early 80s, my dad and his brother-in-law took the place over. And I knew this. It is honorable work. These are great people, but it is tough work, right? And it is cold, and you're out in the brutal cold, and I knew I wanted something sort of different. And I ended up graduated from college. I didn't know what I wanted to do, right? I had friends, becoming junior loan officers at credit unions, and I thought, well, that doesn't sound that much fun. And so I had heard of the Peace Corps. I had friends whose parents had met in the Peace Corps, and so I thought, well, hey, I want to see the world. It's a big world. What's out there? Joined the Peace Corps in 2002. Went to Guatemala, spent 3 years there. I met my wife there, who was another volunteer. We actually this week are celebrating our 20th wedding anniversary, which is kind of, and we ultimately landed in San Diego. We were living in Seattle for a little bit, and it just like 9 months of Seattle, I was like, where does the sun shine? I'd never even been to San Diego, but we said, hey, the sun shines there. We land here. I get into law school. And it was for me, like law school wasn't, I never had this like burning desire. I didn't watch television, think someday I'm going to be a lawyer and I'm going to be able to do this. But as kind of steps, I started thinking what I want to do. I thought, hey, maybe I'll take the LSAT. And this sounds like a good path to take. And so long as it's not a good, or so long as I don't feel like I need to veer away from it, I'm just going to keep taking steps forward. So for me, there was never this burning desire. But as I got into it, and the deeper I got into law school, and then taking the bar exam, and then getting into the law itself, I really just liked it and really loved it. And it just fit my personality. And particularly, I somehow ended up in personal injury, which before this, I just thought it was some terrible dude on the back of a phone book. But you get into it, and it's like, hey, this is cool. This is really cool. There's rules. There's this sort of chess game that you're playing. There's all these tools. And it takes a while to kind of get to capture all of that. I don't care what state you're practicing in. Like, it takes a while. And then you feel good, 5 years, and you're like, okay, I can see the field. I can see what I have to do. I kind of know what's going on. And the farther you get along with this, for me at least, I was kind of more interested in the business side of the law as opposed to just the law. Well, then early on, I think about 10 years ago or more, I met somebody who was doing some one-on-one coaching through Atticus. And so I started with a guy named Patrick Wilson. great guy. And so I went on and went on. And so you really start using a different part of your brain and focusing on the business side of the law. And then, but I'm just kind of, I'm operating on a shoestring. I mean, and it was impressive that what I could do with how little I could. And then I had a large case settle. And it's one of those things to where I knew, right? I can stop here and I can invest this money into systems, into the practice and where I need to go. But I didn't know how to do that. And everywhere I looked, I couldn't find something that could fit me, right? Because I'd been practicing law for some time. I had been on my own with my own firm for like 8 or 9 years. And I'd been doing or having coaching for a while, right? I'd listen to podcasts, and it's kind of funny. I remember years ago, my wife would listen to all these podcasts, meaning like criminal podcasts. But I remember I was thinking, oh, podcasts, those are stupid. What are you wasting your time for? Until I started listening to podcasts that were interesting, right? That were kind of on the business side of law. So here I am kind of wondering, well, what do I do? And it was almost demoralizing because I'm researching, I'm spending time. Who can I talk with? And everyone, it just didn't quite fit perfectly. Then I talked to Tom Tona, and he says, "Oh well, Rory, you got to get set up with the Best Era Slack, right? Because you guys had just started the Slack." I said, and here's what I've learned in life: if Tom Tona tells you to do something, do it. So that's easy. And then he says, "Hey, Rory, you should really talk to Ryan about this new Best Era thing that they've got going." And so that's when we talked, and it was this epiphany, this sort of beautiful sort of fireworks, because all of the sudden I could see that you had a structure like all of the other coaching, like any sort of program you may be able to, but you were flexible. And so when we were talking, I could hear from what you were telling me based on what I was saying, kind of where I'm at, what I need, where I would like to go. And some of I know where I'm at. Looking off into the distance, it might be a little bit fuzzy, but I could tell that you understood me, right? And Best Era understood what I needed. This wasn't, starting at 101 and then you take the step and you come to this program and then you go to there. It wasn't any of that. It was, you could identify exactly what I needed to get to the next level. And it was kind of funny because at that time, the one-on-one coach for years had been getting on me about, I need a number two, the office manager, that's somebody that's there. And so we sat down, and I remember, I think all three of you were there on the screen, and it says, well, Rory, you need somebody who's going to be your right-hand person. And I was like, well, I just hired Karina, right? And who has been kind of the right-hand person. And the other thing is that you talking about the tech side, right? And because I knew this is not only this is where it was going, but I just knew this is how can we streamline things, right? How can we improve this process constantly? And you just got it. And you were able to kind of explain to me what I needed to do to get to these next sort of steps. And so for me, it was almost this uncomfortable point before talking with you, because I had been out for long enough. I knew something, but I knew I had this huge gap, and I just couldn't find the bridge to fill that gap. And then when you came in and you're just like, okay, because I had been looking at different programs, and you would kind of, I can't remember if I had bought it yet but either way, I remember I felt very good after our conversations and saying, lead docket, going into Filevine and everything that it could do. I mean, and at first talking about Filevine and all that stuff, what I've realized is the beautiful thing about Filevine is it can do anything. And the terrible thing about Filevine is it can do anything. Every step you have, there's 5 to 10 different things that you can do. And then for each of those 5 to 10, there's 5 to 10, and it just goes on. And so you need somebody who understands what is the path that you're going to go down. And that's how we kind of started. And for me, it was great because you could work with Karina, who had come from not a legal background, but a healthcare background. And more importantly, what I really think is important for everyone in the future is from the tech side, right? This was a person who understood the tech side, because you all started talking the Filevine stuff. And I was like, I know in Filevine what I want the end result to be. I don't know how to get there. I'm not a tech guy. So having you guys and having Karina who can kind of get it, that's how we got to where we're at here.
So I mean, you talked about where you started, and thank you so much. And I agree, anybody out there, always listen to Tom Tona. I follow that life advice as well. He's a first-rate human being, super smart and incredibly generous. You would be better any interaction with Tom, you're gonna come away better on. So where were you? And we started working together, must have been like
18 months ago, 2 years
18 months
ago.
plus ago. What has the difference been in your practice? Like, where were you? Where are you now? What results have you seen from the work that we did?
Well, it's kind of funny because, like anything, when we come to here, I was kind of prepping and thinking about it. And it was either yesterday or the day before. I was looking for something popped up and was like, oh, I need to find, I can't remember if it was a adjuster's phone number or if it was some sort of piece of information, some sort of piece of data that I went click, 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 and boom, it was right there. Right. So, first off, what that meant is that I had the system in place that could capture that. Within the system in place, I had a location where it would be captured. Within that, I knew how easily to get it. And then the kicker, somebody had actually entered it into that system. And as silly as that may sound, I paused for a moment and I just thought, whoa, because I had just this flash of what it was like before, and it was like, I mean, it was a grind, right? So if you don't have the people, if you don't have the consistent revenue to where you can have consistent people to be fulfilling what needs to be fulfilled, capturing data, right? Because for personal injury attorneys or any attorneys, it's all about having thousands upon thousands of data points that are put in one location where you can easily access it if you need. At its core, that's what it is. I've known that for years. Anyone who's done any practice knows that's the key to it. But it's a lot easier said than it is implemented. And so the other day when I had that, and it was just, I just got this smile on my face thinking, wow. And it made me think about how you helped set up our lead docket, right? And this is the other thing. And I think for me, it was, having to accept that, hey, if somebody calls me, I can do an intake like no other, right? I know exactly what to say. I've got all of these things. But the wild thing is if you and I were to sit here and talk and you say, hey, Rory, what's the first thing you do? I'm like, well, I say hello, right? It's just like this muscle memory. It's this sort of rut that goes into. So, but and it was really hard for me, as I imagine is for others, to take what's in your brain when you've been operating kind of on a small scale, to take what's in your brain and to put it into a system, a systematic way to do an intake. So all of the information is captured. And so that anybody that you bring in, your intake, if you've got a new intake, you've got new sort of, customer relations people, that they can look at a system and know exactly what needs to go into it, right? That is a really hard thing to do. That's the first thing that you set up for us. And that was the kind of the foundation, right? And then really helping us understand, and I mean, I use Filevine, so of course it's Filevine. I'm sure you could help with any system out there, but to really help understand what the importance of the system, what it means. And then as you start to get a little bit bigger, for me, I was able to, now I've got somebody who can enter all of this stuff in. So here I am a couple days ago where here's the thing, I haven't input anything about cases in a long time. But for me to be able to easily go click, 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 and it's right there. I mean, that is powerful. That's a superpower right there. And it was, I mean, of course you can say, hey, the firm, the attorney, they themselves, they have to do it. But to be able to have you kind of just put it up onto a silver platter and help understand that process is invaluable because, and then as you know, it's a learning process. So now, okay, I'm confused about this in front of me. You help me out with it. And then the more we use it, the better it gets. And then it's like an amplify. And then I've gone back to you for a few things, just kind of little checkups. Say, hey, what's this? Can you help me with that? What is this? But overall, you teach a person how to fish, and that's what the takeaway that we have is. Best Era taught us how to fish, so we can go catch our own fish. You know?
That means so much for us because that's our model. I don't have the patience, and we're also busy to like stage one, stage two. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
let's get in, let's roll up our sleeves. Like it's sort of like, you're talking about your dad being like blue collar. Like that's our ethos where it's like, let's meet Rory where he is, identify the opportunities, make the connections that need to be made, whether through vendors or third parties, help train up the people because at the end of the day, Rory, I mean, like people get excited about things like agentic AI and they should, but I'm a big sports fan, and one of my favorite analogies is, so many football games are won on blocking and tackling.
Hmm.
And it's like you can, think of the fancy plays and the trick plays, but you know what? If you have a team that can block and tackle,
Yeah.
you are going to win more than you are going to lose. And for law firms, there's so much buzz out there and there's so much noise out there. And I'm like, no, if you can, you're going to get your gains from creating what we call a single source of truth, which is one place to look. And as opposed to having information scattered all over the place, when you have information scattered everywhere, it's nowhere. You can't extract the value from that data, and it creates, frankly, a lot of work. So,
It's
you know, putting, you know, putting those things in place, and look, we've built the firm from nothing all the way up, so we can go through different phases of this, right?
yeah,
And so our
yeah,
business model is to give you what it is that you need to help you get to the next phase, so then you hire us again because you're like,
yeah.
"Hey, new level, new
You just
devil." And
yeah.
we're like, we're there for you. One of the other things I know, and you did something so important, which was recognizing, the value of Karina and
Yeah. Oh,
needing another person and getting help because, you are so skilled at, the marketing side of things. You are so skilled at the client connection side of things, but having that extra support is leverage. Like it extends what you can do. So can you talk a little bit about some of the marketing changes that you've made and some of the success that you've
oh, yeah.
had?
So absolutely. And so first off, out of the gate, and this, I mean, it was terrible. We had everything really dialed in between lead docket and going into Filevine, and we'd everything built out when the tragedy of the LA fires hit, right? I mean, it's terrible what happened. And what it is I do fire litigation, and I work with one of the biggest firms in town that does fire litigation. And so because we had everything set up, I went out, and so my marketing guy says, "Hey, we're gonna I need you, here's a little script. I need you to go out, try to find somewhere with some, like vegetation in the background." And although I'm in the city of San Diego, there's a bunch of canyons in San Diego. My wife and I fought hard. We got a beautiful home on this beautiful canyon. So this one day, it's like, I don't know, Saturday morning. I haven't even shaved. I think my shirt's all kind of crooked. I'm wearing I don't even know what I'm wearing. My wife was making fun of me afterwards. But I go up. I'm like, okay. I don't even have a tripod. So I've got the phone set like this. I've got the script taped to it. The way that it's at, the sun's kind of shining through it. Get this, it's just a very raw sort of request that says, hey, this is terrible what's going on. You're gonna need help. We're here to help. And I think that really stood out because I wasn't in a tie. I didn't look intimidating. I didn't, and somehow, I mean, some of the stuff was just like we were at the right time. We just were lucky to hit it right. But we put that up onto Meta, and like and then connected it directly to lead docket, right? So most people weren't calling, they're clicking a button, it goes right into lead docket. I would immediately get, because of what you set up, I would immediately get the email with the name and phone number so that I could just call them right there. But we got, I think it was like 140 calls. And then there were, I think like between 48 and 52 signed clients from that. And some of the calls is because there's 3 or 4 different fires going on, and there was only one at the time that had liability on it. So some of the calls had to do with other fires, so we were able to kind of get them set up with some resources. But I mean, 50, 48 to 50 clients simply because we had this set up. And without you helping me set up lead docket, it would not have happened. That's
Yeah.
the biggest thing right there.
Well, Rory, and that's an important lesson for anybody out there looking, listening, which is like you have to plan for success. And I think about this all the time. Like growing up, all I wanted to do was catch a home run ball or a foul ball, right? And so, but I go to the Fenway Park and I don't sit in seats where balls come. I'm too far. And so the first year the Red Sox did green monster tickets, I'm getting a
Mhm.
ticket, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm bringing my glove and I'm gonna get there when they first open because
Yeah.
maybe there's gonna be batting practice.
Yeah.
So I go there and I stand in the front row of the monster. I got my glove, watching Nomar Garcia Parra take batting practice, and the ball comes off his bat and it's like it's thrown to me. And
Yeah.
I'm just sitting there with this like this and I'm like,
Because
I'm
you got it.
channeling my little
Yeah.
leaguer.
Yes.
I'm like two hands, boom, right into the web and I caught my Nomar
Nice.
home run ball,
Nice.
right? But, that is a good business lesson in the sense
Yeah.
that you have to be there ready to succeed, ready to receive and
Yeah.
prepared, right? So it's
Yeah.
bringing the glove, it's getting there early. And for law firms, yeah, it's like, you know what? Plan for success. Plan that the video you do will resonate and will result in clients, or the
Yeah.
website that you build, or the LinkedIn post. Look, you may have to do a lot of that to find that one, but eventually that day that ball's going to come to you and you want
Yeah.
to be prepared. And so, there's
That's it.
that's a really
That
good lesson, Rory, because you were prepared to succeed.
and then that we were, I mean, it was a lot of luck, but because we were prepared. And then looking farther down as what we've done is, I've been doing a fairly significant sort of marketing plan. And I'm not up on a billboard. I don't want a billboard. The biggest thing that I'm trying to do is give people information. Right. So, and I really mean this. I've talked to people before. My sort of sales pitch is this: look, I got plenty of work. I got plenty of work. I don't need more work. So what we need, the most important thing is we need to be able to ride the same wavelength. And if we're not riding the same wavelength, it's not going to work. What I tell people, and it's very silly, but I say, look, you and I could be the world's two best dancers. We could dance with each other and we could step on each other's toes. Doesn't mean I'm a bad dancer, doesn't mean you're a bad dancer. It just means we're not meant to dance with each other. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? And so that's the approach that I take things. And so when I'm out, doing all of like the YouTube, the social media stuff, the point of it is to just get out there and give people information, not so necessarily so that, they see me. "Oh, I've got nice pearly white teeth and on a billboard it says I'll get you $1 million." That's not my goal. I want somebody to look at this information when they don't need it. And then eventually, if they do need somebody, they themselves, a friend, a family member, I'm in their head. Say, hey, this guy was nice enough to give us this information. And so in order to do that, yes, it requires marketing stuff, but all of that stuff has to be tied together. So if we're up on YouTube, how does that connect to our lead docket? How do we get people there? How can we get people onto our email newsletters that go out about weekly? And it's the email newsletters is when you can really communicate with people. And so for me, all of this tech stuff has to do with essentially how do we take what was before, if you imagine yourself in some sort of community gathering, handshaking, hey, looking somebody in the eyes, how you doing? I'm Rory, nice to meet you, right? How can you replicate that authentically and truthfully out in the inters web, right? How can you do that? And it takes more than just putting out videos, right? There has to be connections. And that's where, and the strongest connection is that how do we get them into lead docket? How do we get to where we can make that connection with someone?
Rory, that's a great way to end this. And I'm so grateful for your time. And that message is
Yeah.
so important in the age of AI, in the age of AI slop and crap. No, no, no. It like raises the value on human connection. And so don't hide behind your laptop. Don't hide behind, fancy clothes. Get out in your community. Do the work on your firm to prepare for success, build connections authentically, and give without expectation of return. And, when you start doing those things, and obviously do them consistently,
Yeah.
find a Karina, you can really change your practice and change your life and help, so many people. So Rory, you are an inspiration to me, and I cannot wait to meet you in person and have some tacos
Yeah.
with you in San
October.
Diego
Let's do it.
in
Oh, I know some
October.
great spots. I know some great
And
spots.
I don't know if there's bad spots out there, but we are so excited. I've never been to San
There's just
Diego.
there's good spots and there's really good spots.
Well,
We'll get you to the really good spots. So
we're gonna go to the really good spots. We can't wait to see you. And Rory, if somebody wants to find you, what's the best way to do that?
any of the social medias at Rory Law Firm, Rory at rorylaw.com or rorylaw.com. It was my wife's idea for the Rory Law, which has worked out pretty well because nice and simple.
Very simple. And, if you're out there and you're a lawyer and you're looking how to do social media and do it effectively, I think Rory does an amazing job. His
Yeah.
videos are so good, authentic.
Thank you.
It just radiates who he is as a person. So check out his social media, if for no other reason, then I think it's a great example for somebody looking to get started in doing this.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. So, and hey, thanks
Awesome.
for your time. And of course, thanks for helping set this up. Thanks for helping launch this. So I really appreciate it.
Can't wait to see where you keep going, Rory.
Yeah. All right. See you now.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.